good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to this plenary session. This session contains a double treat for us. The first 30 minutes are dedicated to the presidential address, and then we have a full hour for the J. Forrester Award. My name is Bergen. I was last year's president, and it is my honor to chair the session with this year's presidential address. The address will be delivered by Paulo Goncalves, and I promised him I would embarrass him a little. So Paulo Goncalves holds a master and PhD from MIT. He is professor of management at Università della Svizzera Italiana in Lugano, Switzerland. But Paulo is so much more than that. He is the perfect embodiment of and ambassador for system dynamics. Paulo co-directs the Masters in Management, but more intriguingly, in his capacity as the founder and director of the Master of Advanced Studies in Humanitarian Logistics and Management, he has trained humanitarian practitioners and visited all kinds of places. Paulo is disturbingly brilliant, and he applies his brilliance to topics of high societal relevance and value. Paulo speaks a bunch of languages, a bunch of cultures, a bunch of disciplines, a bunch of methods, and he isn't just a brilliant teacher and researcher, but also an accomplished entrepreneur. And most importantly for us today, Paulo is our president. Paulo, we're very much looking forward to your presidential address. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Birgit. It makes me want to live up to all of those wonderful things you say. But let me start with the presidential address. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to serve as your president, the president of the System Dynamics Society, and to speak with you today. First, I'd like to thank all members of the System Dynamics community, colleagues, and dear friends as system dynamicists. You know, the personal and professional relationships that I have built within the system dynamics field are among the most valuable in my life. That certainly includes you, Bergen. But they also have led to fruitful interdisciplinary research. 25 years ago, you have welcomed me into the field, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Your work has inspired me then and continues to do so today. I also continue to be impressed by system dynamics' ability to shed light on important contemporary issues and extending our understanding of the behavior of complex systems by capturing patterns of behavior and uncovering the structures that generate. It is an honor to be here today and provide some of my thoughts on the state of the System Dynamics Society and its future. But instead of laying out a path for the future of our field, or answer some of the challenging questions that we have grappled with, I would like to share some analogies and invite us to think hard about them and consider what they may mean for our field. I will start by reviewing the state of the System Dynamics Society. You know, the Society is an international nonprofit organization devoted to encouraging the development and use of systems thinking and system dynamics modeling around the world. It provides a forum in which researchers, educators, students, consultants, and practitioners in the academic, corporate, and public sectors can interact to keep abreast of current developments, build on each other's work, and introduce newcomers to the field. Now, this definition above has been taken directly from the Society's website, and it highlights a few of its important aspects, such as diversity, interconnectivity, and inclusivity. So let me spend a little bit of time on each one of these aspects, starting with diversity. As David Lane reminded us in his 2011 address, Amartya Sen, in his 2006 book, Identity and Violence, The Illusion of Destiny, describes how people often define others by a single attribute, to then go forward and highlight their differences. This is all too common a perspective, with people being labeled as Democrats or Republicans, blacks or whites, liberals or conservatives, Christians or Jews, among others. This simplistic approach, reducing the identity of a person to a single attribute, may help people form and pass judgments, but entirely misses the point of what characterizes an individual's identity. As the Dalai Lama puts it, underlying diversity are basic human principles that bind us all together as members of the same human family. We all have common human needs and concerns. We all seek happiness, and we all try to avoid suffering, regardless of our race, religion, sex, or social status. The society embraces diversity as exemplified and emphasized by Jürgen Strohecker's 2015 presidential address. And from the point of view of our society, the common concern of systems thinkers and system dynamicists with the behavior of complex systems, the structures capable of generating said behavior, the identification, design, and implementation of high leverage policies to improve the human condition further binds us together. So let me consider interconnectivity now. In his letter from the Birmingham jail, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. replied to the criticism by local Alabama clergymen condemning civil rights demonstration as directed and led by outsiders. That meant condemning his actions and that of his associates. In his reply, King reasoned that they were caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. And as you can imagine, system dynamics espouses interconnectivity. In Forrester's 71 World Dynamics, Meadows et al. 72 Limits to Growth, Rander's 2012, 2052 Global Forecast for the next 40 years, the world modeling work of our colleagues recognized our understanding of interconnectivity and concern for the shared state of the world. They alerted us about the physical limitations of our planet Earth and our intertwined fate. Their conclusions that growth in the human ecological footprint would have to stop and humanity's resource use and environmental impact will have to be within sustainable levels. At the same time, they recognize the existing income inequality, differences in quality of life across people in the world, that all of those issues need to be addressed to remove these discrepancies. We are all tied in the same garment of destiny, characterized by the destiny of our common world. Whatever affects one directly affects all of us indirectly. Finally, let me briefly mention that the System Dynamic Society also embraces inclusivity, as emphasized by Etienne Rouet's 2016 presidential address and his particular focus on first-time attendees and newcomers to the field. We welcome you. These espoused values of diversity, interconnectivity, and inclusivity are important to the society, but they are not the only values. While not stated in its mandate, the society also espouses continuity. A number of process innovations initiated in previous terms remain to this day. And this might be a little bit too bureaucratic, but I'd like to detail some of them. Starting in 2010 with Rogelio Oliva, the past president, current president, and president-elect operated more as a team, overcoming the shortcomings of a one-year presidency term and ensuring the society retains the much required leadership continuity to achieve its mission. From my point of view, it has been a pleasure to have worked directly with Birgit and also to start working closely with Shane Gary as our incoming president. The strategy for the society with its mission statement and initiatives to achieve its vision put in place during the Kim Warren presidency in 2013 continues to guide strategic work of the society today. And it informs initiatives undertaken by the strategy committee. Moreover, the efforts of the society to increase the presence in Asia-Pacific region, initiated in 2014 during Ed Anderson's presidency, has led to the successful APAC chapter capable of proposing and undertaking original initiatives. And, you know, just to name one additional change, recent, in the format and the length of the Policy Council meetings, that was proposed by Birgit Kopainski, our past president. And during her presidency in 2020, the Policy Council meetings that used to meet twice a year for an entire day, now they take place every month for 90 minutes. This change has not only reduced decision-making delays in the society, it also increased constructive and active participation of the PC members. You know, these innovations, all of them implemented in previous presidencies, they remain today. And together they build up a set of process capabilities that helps us and helps the society successfully do its work. I am grateful for this value of continuity. And as you can imagine, there is an incredible amount of work required to keep the system dynamic society running. A large part of this work is done by a small, dedicated group of people in the home office. I'd like to thank them for their work. So thank you, Fernando Redivo, Megan Colvin, Raquel Buzogani, Roberta Spencer, and Rebecca Niles. Thank you so much for all of your work. But the society also benefits from a large group of volunteers, making up the past presidents, the president-elect, the vice presidents for the various committees, the members of the Policy Council, the SIGs and chapter offices. All of them complement the work. All of these volunteers help the society fulfill its role and achieve its goals. My personal gratitude goes out to all of you who dedicate your time and effort to ensure the society keeps on running. Now, I want to give you a more recent perspective on our efforts to maintain continuity. Birgit Kopainski's 2020 presidential address described 7 principles for building resilience in socio-ecological systems. And I like to go over these 7 principles in the efforts of our society this year. And to do that, I have asked Birgit to share some slides. And in particular, I am using Birgit's format. I've called this Our Ship and Our Efforts, and this will make a little bit more sense in a bit. But if we can go next, forward, Birgit, with the next line. So these are the 7 principles for building resilience in socio-ecological systems. And this is a slide taken directly from Birgit's address. And what I'd like to do next is to focus on each and every one of them, detailing individual activities that the society has been pursuing this year. So if we can go to the next slide. So with respect to managed connectivity, we have been growing our social media presence. Not only we have been broadcasting on social media, but we also have been creating value, increasing engagement and connectivity to our society, and amplifying the visibility of our work. But we also have been building the volunteer base of our volunteers and reaching out to members and community at large on social media. The Asia Pacific has received support from John Richardson, funding a China liaison, identifying also Zhenzhen Go, a volunteer that has been reinvigorating the APCC. We have been expanding the committees for chapters and SIGs. We have been sharing cross-learning and best practices among them, and the leadership has been meeting regularly. We have launched a networking series and have ran a number of events with 60 to 70 people connecting virtually, but there are plans for a number of other events. And we have been proactively engaging in career services during the conference. Next. We also have been encouraging learning in a very dedicated way. We established a vibrant learning community. The mentorship program proposed pilot from Jack Homer is now a reality. And all of these other initiatives, the modeling assistance workshop, the publishing assistance workshop, the peer mentoring program, they have been available at the conference for a number of years. Now they are available year-round. So the seminar series also have been promoting learning and participation. And in 2021 alone, we have over 1,100 participants. We have ran the summer school steadily over the years, and we have the ability to teach them regularly. The Society now offers free system dynamic courses with vendor sponsorship. So thank you, our vendors, Vensim, PowerSyn, and others. So Nikki Zimmerman will have already offered this course, and the announcement has gone out, and we have 340 people signed up for it. So the course will take up later in the fall. But Len Malczynski will also offer a course sponsored by PowerSyn. And other traditional system dynamics courses are being available online at new attractive price points. So this is the case for the WPI course and the J. Forrester seminar series. Now, one initiative by the University of Bergen and WPI planned for 2022, the Academium, promises to help programs with a small number of SD courses by offering or sharing courses through a platform. Now, moving forward, the effort also promotes polycentric governance. And let me just say that the more frequent meetings in the Policy Council promotes more active participation of the VPs, more frequent discussion, and more interactivity. So it has been tremendously constructive for the society. I personally appreciate the executive director proactive search for checks and balances during her decisions, constant interactions with the VPs, with the Policy Council members, and other committees before arriving at specific decisions. This attitude has led to significant positive outcomes in the last year and a half that Rebecca has been working as executive director of the society. The chapter and SIG's work, learning from each other, is also worth mentioning. Effort to identify and share these best practices, and this promotion to shared vision across chapters and SIGs. Can we go forward, Birgit? Now, we also, one of the other principles is to maintain diversity and redundancy. We had a webinar of women in system dynamics with over 70 participants. Our diversity committee commissioned a survey and delivered a report. And we have significant diversity in the home office encompassing gender, geography, interests, culture. And I have been told, and witnessed that that diversity increased the home office's ability to handle diverse problems. Now, there's also an attitude of ensuring that the staff, the people focus on understanding the overall problems so that they are not hyper-specialized. It's important also to mention that we have a new structural racism SIG that has become very active in the last year. Going forward, we also espouse this broadened participation. I mentioned the volunteer basis, and the conference access has increased because of our choice to go virtual. It was, as Birgit mentioned last year, something that was a need, but it made it cheaper and more accessible. We have expanded our social media presence. We embraced the diversity of our community with initial efforts to reach out to practitioners and industry clients. And I mentioned our SD courses and the PC meetings. So next. Now, finally, in the past, we had difficulty managing slow variables and feedback. And in particular, the home office was overloaded with a lot of burnout and demotivation. Lots of work, some of the attitudes ostracized some of our constituencies. There was this feeling that it was hard to win them back. When we talked about strategy, it also seemed too daunting a task, impossible to implement. And we have changed the way in which we approach these challenges. So we have started to think in terms of chunking, breaking down the big challenges into small initiatives. Identify a small group of volunteers, partner the volunteers with senior members, and then do experimentation where failure is okay. And we learn by trying things out and seeing what sticks. Next. So this all comes together. So the next slide shows that, at the center of these 7 principles is the foster complex adaptive systems thinking, and it's our SD mandate. So we are going to go next, the last slide. And okay, I see that this has changed a bit, but I just wanted to highlight that the numbers have been fairly stable with respect to membership. We are at 1,200 this year, conference registrations at 560, and summer school participants this year at 110. And with this, I'd like to go back to 2 analogies with the time remaining for me. And these 2 analogies address important issues in our system dynamics field. The first one that I'd like to share with you is associated with the Theseus ship paradox. Introduced by Plutarch, the ship of Theseus posited a thought experiment regarding the identity of an object, right? It really asked whether a ship that had every single one of its wooden planks replaced with new, stronger ones remained the same ship. Now, so more generally, if an object has all of its components replaced, does it remain the same object? And I guess the relevance to system dynamics has been brought forward by several of our colleagues over the years. So I got back to David Lane and his 2011 presidential address. He cited papers offering reflective critiques in operations research and management science, ORMS, and managerial research, and pointed out to their reflective or respective limitations. Historically, those 2 fields have been close to system dynamics. And from that proximity, we have adopted similar language, addressed similar problems, and complemented our traditional methods with several aspects of theirs. Lane put forward the question in 2011, how much does it constrain system dynamics to be open to these managerial fields? And is there a risk of being so open that we lose our identity? So in our analogy, by being open, we are replacing some of the old planks of system dynamics with new ones. And more recently, John Sturman in the 60th anniversary edition of the field reminded us that, we must master the state of the art and modern tools wherever they originated. Where needed, we must innovate to develop new methods to address the pressing challenges we face. So John calls us to replace the wooden planks where needed with new and stronger ones. Is the result still system dynamics? Is it the same ship? And I would argue that yes. And Aristotle's causes offer a solution to this seemingly paradox. And in particular, instead of focusing on what the ship is made of, right, the original or the replaced planks, Aristotle considers its raison d'être, right, its purpose for the definition of its identity. Since Theseus' ship retains its original cause, it is still the same ship. And for system dynamics, Since we're still interested in developing, testing, communicating, and implementing rigorous, reliable, and effective insights into the dynamics of complex systems, it remains the same system dynamics. Now, my second analogy draws from more recent theory put forward by Harvard's Clayton Christensen. And his theory of good money and bad money states that when financiers consider investing in a new startup, they have two key objectives, growth and profitability. When the winning strategy of a firm is not yet clear, good money from investors needs to be patient for growth, but impatient for profit. That is, managers' priority should be to find a strategy that works, that is, a strategy that generates profits. However, once a profitable strategy has been found, investors should change their focus and become impatient for growth and patient for profit. That is, once the startup has found its profitable strategy, then it can focus on scalability. Christensen's theory states that good money is impatient for profit and patient for growth. Bad money is impatient for growth and patient for profit. If a company accepts bad money early on, managerial decisions will be influenced towards scalability before a sound strategy is in place, which would lead to its demise. Well, in the past, system dynamics have been concerned about the growth of the field. The relevant analogy to system dynamics is about one of growth and impact. As we invest our time and effort in the field, we should consider whether our efforts should be impatient for growth and patient for impact or otherwise. Let me call this the good effort and bad effort analogy. And let me suggest that our society's members' priorities should be to find out a system dynamics strategy that works, meaning a strategy that generates clear positive impact, not only clear to us, which I think we see, but to all exposed to it. In that sense, our good efforts should be impatient for impact. Only when an impactful strategy has been found and can be effectively replicated should we change our focus and become impatient for growth, focusing on widespread scalability. Now, some of you may argue that we have already clear examples of positive impact in academia, practice, education, and so on, and to a large extent, I agree with you. Perhaps then what we have not figured out as a field is how to codify such strategies in a way that they are not idiosyncratic and specific to individuals and to organizations, but could be replicated and generalized to others. As a field, that challenge remains. And until we figure out a generalizable strategy for impact, we should remain impatient for impact. As a case in point, this year marks the 50th anniversary of World Dynamics. Limits to Growth will celebrate 50 years next year. Economic policies of most of the world's countries espouse economic growth fueled by ever-growing consumption. This ubiquitous behavior takes place despite broader understanding that indefinite growth in a finite planet is not possible. An impact strategy for the field would be one that would spread such wisdom and reverse these trends. To conclude, these two analogies represent a perspective on important issues that many of us have grappled with over the years. They capture my personal point of view. They don't represent truth. I hope that they can foster constructive conversation among and can lead to concrete actions by us. I started this address mentioning that I was inspired by the work of many of my system dynamics friends and colleagues. In his Path Forward, John reminds us that Jay always dared us to have courage, to be bold and work on the most important challenges facing humanity. John called us to follow his example, and I'd like to invite you to join me on this voyage, bringing your best effort forward and ensuring that we are impatient for impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paulo. On behalf of everybody, I can do the clapping. Most of us can't. So now your video is back. We missed out on your video for a while, but thank you very much. You've become a very good Swiss. We're right on schedule. And this concludes the presidential address, and we will move